What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the channel. As there's more rumors and speculation after the Brandon Nimmo trade, that this opens up a tremendous amount of opportunities of outfield targets for the New York Mets, from the free agent market to the trade market. And earlier this morning, John Morosi was on MLB Network, and he says that Bellinger is a strong possibility because of this Nimmo trade, and it kind of suits the Mets probably the best. But there is more and more speculation when it comes to the Padres looking to shed a tremendous amount of payroll, could be trading Fernando Tatis Jr., and that should open up a lot of eyes for the New York Mets. Would it take a lot to get him? Sure. Even though he has a tremendous amount of money and years left on his contract, as we'll get into, he is only 27 years old. He's probably got 5 or 6 really great prime years to really go in that, that long-term contract that he has. And a lot of people were like, well, if you take on all of the contract, wouldn't you have to give up less? Possibly. Now, the trade proposal that I have is a lot. Now, I don't think you have to give up that much, but it's just a player prospect perspective on a combination of guys you might have to give up to land Fernando Tatis, along with taking on the entire contract. Because the Padres don't want to get rid of this contract. Even though Tatis Jr. is under 30 years old, he's young, he still have his best years probably ahead of him. They are having a tremendous amount of financial restraints because of ownership issues and all that other stuff. So when it comes to Fernando Tatis Jr., would it be smart for the Mets to go out, give up a decent amount of prospects, and also take on that tremendous contract? Obviously, you put him in center field, it's kind of a done deal, right? You got Soto in right, you got center field, you got Fernando Tatis Jr., and left field, you can really work with what you really need to do. Would you move Juan Soto to left field? Would Jet Williams be your center fielder and you put a guy like Fernando Tatis in right field? A lot of possibilities you can do here when it comes to that. Is you can use one of your prospects other than Jet Williams, possibly, depending on who might be in this trade, as we'll look at in a little bit. A lot of possibilities here. Obviously, a tremendous amount of options the Mets have. This is just one of many options that the Mets have. But Fernando Tatis Jr. is a lightning rod. One thing you do worry about, though, he has been suspended for PEDs once. Second time is one more step until a lifetime ban. The last thing the Mets need is a guy of Fernando Tatis' caliber to get caught with PEDs once again, or possibly twice, and then he's banned for life. That is a big concern, regardless if it's on purpose or it's not on purpose. That's always a risk. Now, he's a tremendous defender, tremendous offensively. There is some attitude issues that you might have to worry about, but is it worth the risk? That's what the Mets got to ask. That's what Met fans got to ask, right? When you hear Fernando Tatis Jr., there's probably 95% of Met fans that says, hell yeah. But then you look at my trade. Is that a possibility that you have to use all those guys in the farm system? I don't know, especially if the Mets are going to need a top-line starter. That's possibly on the free agent market or possibly on the trade market, like a Tariq Skubal. That might be something that might be off the table if this trade happens. So there's a lot of dynamics here. So what do the Mets do? So what would the trade proposal be? Once again, this is 4 players that I believe could be in a deal. I don't still believe that it's going to take all 4 of these guys. I think it's probably going to take at least 2 top 10 prospects, and then you can mess around with the other 2 prospects or players as well when we look at it. So look at the trade right here, guys. This is where the Mets would get Fernando Tatis Jr. He has a remaining 9 years, $295.9 million, roughly left on his contract. It's probably a little closer to 297, closer to 300. Let's just put round number on it, 9 years, $300 million. And the Padres would get Brandon Nimmo, number 5 overall prospect, Carson Benj, number 2 overall prospect, Jacob Reimer, number 7, and Ronnie Mauricio. That is a ton. That is an absolute ton. And I'd be hesitant to give all that. But I'm just trying to put a perspective there of you got to incentivize a little bit besides just the contract. Now, I don't think it's going to take this much. I'm just throwing 4 names out there. I think you got to change up some dynamic of the logjam you have in the infield now, especially with Simeon, who will be your second baseman. You got McNeil, you got Mauricio, you got Luisano Acuna, you got Brett Beatty, you got Mark Vientos. Those bunch of logjam guys, somebody's got to go, at least 2 of them. And this is where I think you start with that with Ronnie Mauricio. Now, I think you can probably get it done with Sproat, Reimer, and Mauricio. I still think that's a lot, but I'm willing to do that because I still think Jonah Tong is in development. You get rid of Brandon Sproat, I understand that, but you do got Jonathan Santucci, who I think is going to be rolling up the farm system, already a top 10 prospect. I think he's going to be even better, and I think that's a guy the Mets are really looking at who might even help this team possibly later in the year. So that's also, and again, this is where the Mets would have to be careful because what do you do at this point when you get Tatis Jr.? You give up a couple of top prospects. It might be harder to get Tyree Skubal. So the Mets are looking at more of a Ranger Suarez, or they're going to be looking more at Freddie Peralta. That's the dynamic as well. So if you're looking for an outfielder right off the bat, now, in my opinion, I think you have to do 1 or 2. I think you got to use these prospects to get Tyree Skubal, who is a free agent after this year, keep in mind. But with Tatis Jr., you guaranteed him for 9 more years. And you got at least 5 to 6, maybe even more years of his prime. So it's a lot to look at. And because if you do trade this package or close to this package for Fernando Tatis, Tyreek Skubal's probably off the table unless the Mets try to figure out a way to give up more prospects, which I'm on board with. If you can get Tyreek Skubal in here and you can get Fernando Tatis Jr. in here, let's go. We'll go to war with that team. I take that every day of the week. You got McLean and Skubal 1-2, and then you bring in Tatis Jr. in here. And then you can put Tatis Jr. in center field with Juan Soto in right. Left field, pick your poison. Who do you want? You want to throw Tyrone Taylor out there? You want to get, maybe a Ryan Clifford or Jeff McNeil who can be your Swiss Army knife, who can play all 3 outfield positions if need be, who can be your utility infielder and outfielder? That's exactly what you could do here, guys. So is this a lot? Yes. I think you can get it done with Sproat, Reimer, and Mauricio. And if you or you can do Sproat and Benj and maybe a lower level prospect. I think that can get done as well. Yeah, that hurts Carson Benj to get rid of Carson Benj because he seems like he's the up and comer here. But can he be Fernando Tatis Jr.? Who knows? Who cares? He's going to be on a bad Padres team in a couple of years who is going to shed a ton of payroll. So who cares? Here's what I know. Tatis Jr. is a proven talent. Carson Benj isn't proven. A lot of upside, but isn't proven. Now, I'm on board if you want to hold on to Carson Benj and, see what he can do here and maybe make the team. I don't think he's going to be 100% ready in spring training and make the team. I hope he does. That would be awesome. But you can't wait for spring training. Most of the best guys are off the table. So you can't wait for that. You can't have holes in your outfield because you're waiting for Carson Benj to figure things out or Jet Williams. If they don't look good in spring training, you're very much in trouble. So get the proven talent in here. If one of these guys that are still in the farm system show something in spring training, great. You have another option. Great. Maybe they can be your left fielder. Get the job done. What we've seen here with the Brandon Nimmo trade is that David Stearns is starting to be aggressive, but can he be more aggressive? And we talked about this many, many times. David Stearns needs to get a little uncomfortable here. I think this Brandon Nimmo move got him a little uncomfortable, and that's a good start. But there's a lot of work to be done. Tatis Jr. would be an amazing move. And that's where we are right now when it comes to the Mets possibly trying to land Fernando Tatis Jr. Let me know in the comments, guys. What are you thinking about the possibility of the Mets landing Fernando Tatis Jr. with 9 years, probably closer to $300 million left on his contract at 27 years old, starting in the 2026 season? Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of this trade and what other prospects you might want to put other than the ones I showed you. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.